at Ohio State, and we will have a transcript today, so please speak up with your questions. And with that, we'll start with Brian, then we'll have LeVar, and then Phil Parker. So.
Thanks, Steve. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate, as always, the opportunity to meet with you guys in person for the first time since camp. And I just want to start with some general thoughts. I think, look, obviously right now we're all disappointed and frustrated by our performance offensively on Saturdays. But I'm proud of the preparation, the effort the guys have put in on a weekly basis, 7 days a week with the effort, and the preparation has been excellent. But the reality is right now the production certainly hasn't been what we expected, and it's not meeting our level of expectations, most importantly. Felt like we had seen consistent improvement going into the Illinois week. But unfortunately, I think we took a step back that night over in Champaign. And, you know, the positive is we got an opportunity to come back to work this week. Guys have come in with an eye on the future, the eyes on the horizon, and really a renewed focus on improving. I think for us right now, very important that we're worried about improving and executing at all 11 spots. We all have ownership in this right now. Making the makeable is doing our job, just the simple basics. And then, you know, I think we all understand and need to understand that we need to take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us. We've got 6 football games remaining in the season. And the reality is we all need to do better. And the good news is we're committed to doing that moving forward here. So I'd like to open up to questions. And who wants to start?
Brian, I'll start.
Scott.
I could recite, you know, the stats and the rankings, but you probably already know them, and it doesn't really matter anyway. Is there a clear source of where the offensive issues start? Is it positional? Is it schematic? Is it you? Is it the play calling? Is it your father? I mean, is there one area that you think you're looking at saying this is where the root of all these issues?
Well, you know, I think unfortunately we don't have a root cause. I think we have to look at everything. Right, and the reality is, as I just said, we all have ownership in it. But, you know, as simple as it sounds, the basics are the basics, right? And if you just think about offensive football, our job is to possess, advance, and score the football. And you have to start by possessing the football. So you look at turnovers to start, and certainly in the first 2 weeks, those were huge problems in the game, right? We turned the ball over 4 times in 2 games. Every single one of those turnovers either took points off the board for us or put points on the board for our opponents. Felt like we had addressed that, and I've seen marked improvement in that regard. The next thing you look at offensively is first down production, right? Are you staying on schedule? Are you staying ahead of the chains in those manageable situations? Are you being efficient on first down? And right now, the reality is not consistently, which then leads to critical downs. Okay, so now you're going to need to stay on the field on 3rd down or 4th down, not doing that as well as we need to do and as consistently as we can. And then on top of it, right, that's going to limit your ability to move the ball down the field. Are you creating those red area possessions? And when you are you scoring touchdowns? Are you scoring points? That hasn't been consistent enough. And if you're not doing any of those things, then you better be banking on explosive plays. And at times that's gotten us out of trouble. We've hit some big plays that have gotten us out of bad situations, but that's not the kind of world you want to be living in on a consistent basis. So, you know, I look at all 11 spots. I look at the coaching. I look at the scheme. I look at everything, and I say we got to do better in all regards. How do we put our players in better positions to be successful in those opportunities, right? How do we execute better when we have those opportunities, and how we make the makeable plays at the end of the day?
You had 9 months to try to improve this offense after not so good numbers last year. Why do you think it's instead regressed for all the ways that you've just pointed out?
Sure. Well, the hard part is, like I just told Scott, right, it's very difficult to just pinpoint one issue. Because when we've been good in certain places, we haven't executed in other places. And the reality of offensive football is it takes 11 guys. It takes 11 guys, and there's more than that if you include the play caller, right? So we all have a hand in it. You know, the clear explanation or clear issue, clear root, wish I could give you one. The reality is we've got a lot of issues that we're working to address right now. And it starts up front, okay, continues outside, Really, the tight end position, feel like the production's been pretty good there. It's hard to point the finger at those guys. But there's plenty of examples, right, where we can block better, we can run routes better, we can catch the ball better, okay, we can run the football better at the running back position, or we can throw the ball better at the quarterback position. So it's a culmination of all 11 things that lead to some of those issues, and that's what we're working hard to address.
Right. For you guys, it's always started up front. What do you see from your offensive line not getting the push that they normally would, and the issues with pass protection?
Sure. Well, pardon me. I think the other night is a good example, right? So there's different kinds of games you can be in. We knew what kind of game it was going to be on Saturday night. Part of the reason I have a lot of respect for what they do there, they're going to play you in an 8-man front, okay, regardless of what they're doing behind it. And what they're doing is they're going to line up and say, hey, listen, we're going to play one-on-one at every single spot across the board here. And if somebody wins, for us, we're going to be in good shape. If somebody loses, it's not going to be so good. So you look at the game a year ago, felt like we were able to run the ball pretty effectively against Illinois last year in Kinnick. We were winning some of those one-on-one battles. The other night, we knew that there were going to be man blocks. And at the end of the day, we just weren't able to win consistently enough to get anything going, right? So you think about push, and that's true to some extent. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to be able to win the one-on-one battles, it's going to be a problem. Same thing in pass protection the other night. The same issues that the front creates in the run game, it creates in pass protection, where you know it's going to be 5-on-5 for the majority of the night. Maybe not true against a 4-down front or some other teams. But the problem is, real simply, we've got some guys playing right now that simply haven't developed to the level that they probably need to be out there, whether it's injury issues, whether it's missed time, and it really doesn't matter. The reality is what we have to be doing right now is pushing those guys forward as quickly as we can, trying to get them the tools they need to be successful and get them out there. And I think I'd be remiss to say, in fairness to some of those players, I've seen improvement. I've seen marked improvement with some guys. I think a lot of guys are making strides. Didn't show up consistently enough the other night, but I'm excited to see how they continue to progress.
I want to ask about 3 plays from the other night.
Sure.
Can we go one by one or just give them all now?
Let's go one by one.
Okay. The one where Arlen was in the backfield and it was a shovel pass to Sloan.
Correct.
Is that the quarterback's read there, or is that always going to be a shovel?
It's a read play. So there is an option there to hand the ball off. We chose to shovel, and obviously it didn't end the way we wanted. We would have liked to score in a touchdown, but the good news, we maintained possession of the ball.
And then there was a pass to Gavin up the right sideline. Didn't look like he was looking for the ball. Was that supposed to go to him or Nico, who was underneath and wide open?
Can you give me the question one more time?
Yeah, it was like third. You were backed up. It was early.
Yeah, it was the
Third
first.
down,
It
yeah.
was the first third. We were
Looked like
back.
a
It
wheel.
was our second possession.
It was like a
third
wheel
down.
route up the side, and looked like Gavin wasn't looking for it. And
Yeah.
Nico was wide open underneath. So
Okay.
I'm curious, was that always supposed to go to Gavin, or was that?
It's a mesh play. Anytime we run a pass play, right, if we free release the back, which we did on that play, there's 5 guys in the route. There are 5 viable options in the route. Everyone is live. We are going to highlight or lowlight things based on the coverage we're getting. There are scenarios where that ball would go to Gavin. Certainly didn't feel like that was the scenario we wanted to go to Gavin. But the reality is we still had a play that was makeable, and we didn't make it.
And then the last one was just a delay game in the end zone. Toward the end, obviously, that turned into a punt, and they're winning points as a result. The play looked like it was in on time. What happened there that caused the game?
The play was definitely in on time. Okay, but what happened there was we were in the end zone. Their band was there. There was a little bit more noise than I thought, maybe existed at the time. Looking back at it, I didn't probably give a good play call considering the amount of noise, because we had a shift on the play, right? We had a short motion with the back. It was actually the same play we had called earlier in the game. It was Gavin. Gavin was the back. He was starting to the field, motion into the boundary, and then we were snapping the ball with him on the move. I think the motion probably cost us the penalty, just getting that lined up. So I would take accountability for that and say what I wish I would have done in retrospect. We can run the same play with him in the backfield without the short motion. That's what I should have done to put the players in a better position to be able to get that play off on time.
And that caused more conservative call, I guess, on 3rd and long than the delay. But I mean, it was a handoff strip.
Yeah, I mean, here's the reality. We went from a position where I believe we were on like the 4.5, 5-yard line, right? So felt like that was a play that we were going to get the ball off on the plant or at worst on the hitch. It was going to come out pretty quick. And it has a good built-in hot in case they want to pressure it. From the 2, just really was very concerned that something bad could happen that would lose us the football game right there. So it definitely changes your mentality. There's no question.
How do you evaluate yourself as a play caller?
Yeah, how do I evaluate myself as a play caller? It's pretty simple. Are we doing the 3 things that I mentioned at the beginning? Are we possessing, right, advancing, and scoring the football? I don't think we're doing any of those things very consistently right now. So how I would evaluate myself is I need to improve. I need to work on ways to get better. How do I help the guys do those things? How do I put us in positions to be successful and to advance the football, right, without taking unnecessary risk? And then certainly when we get down the low red area, we need to score. We need to score touchdowns. We're looking to score touchdowns. You know, certainly field goals are preferable to the alternative, but touchdowns are the goal. So my evaluation, I need to do better. How do I find ways to make us more successful and improve as we move into the next 6 games?
When you evaluate quarterback Spencer Petras, nobody else has taken a snap. You've talked, and Kirk has talked about a lot of confidence in Alex Padilla, yet when the offense continues to struggle week after week after week, why not make the change, just to make a change, just to change something up?
Yeah. You know, I don't disagree with the philosophy of changing for change's sake. I think it has been effective for people. I think it exists in the world. It's like any philosophy. You can point to times as successful. You can point to times as not successful. Just like sticking with somebody, right? That's going to cut both ways at some point as well. It's not a philosophy that we adhere to. You know, since I've been a part of this program, so I have 16 years in this program as a player or a coach, you know, our philosophy is we begin the season, we're in it together at that point. We can get to the end of the season, we can worry about making changes for change's sake or anything like that, and we've done that from time to time. You know, I think back to 2014, the 2014 season, got to the end of that season and certainly made a change. But right now, the best way I can describe the quarterback position is this. It's like any position on our football team. We're evaluating everybody all the time on everything. And the quarterback position is very simple. Who can do the job the absolute best? What are we looking at? Well, we're looking at metrics, okay? Not just games, practice. You're talking about decisions, reads, timing, location, all those things. And the good news with the quarterback position is very tangible, right? There's not a lot of gray area when you're grading those factors. So the reality is we do like Alex. We would feel comfortable with Alex in the game. We feel like he's a good player. But the reason that Spencer's our quarterback is we feel like he gives us the best chance to win.
Earlier in the season, you said right after South Dakota State that you thought Spencer had adequate time to throw and the execution wasn't there. Do you still believe that's been the case through now 6 weeks, or is it a different story now?
Like which game specifically, though?
Like just over the course of these 6 weeks.
No, that's not always true. Just like it wasn't always true in the South Dakota State game. I thought with the exception of 2 plays in that game that he had adequate time to throw. You know, I think we could point to plays in any of the other 5 games where maybe he didn't have the time. But that's the reality of playing the position. You're going to have some of those instances. Now, you look at the other night, you know, I would say there's probably 4 examples where he's just certainly is not going to have time to get the ball off. Unfortunately, one of them was on our last non-desperation type play. We've got an in-cut breaking open at about the 40. You know, is he going to get in field goal range? He's going to be pretty darn close. But unfortunately, that's one of those plays where you don't even get a chance. You couldn't have thrown that on the plant if you wanted to, and that's a hitch and throw. So, you know, there's opportunities in the game to overcome some things with timing. There's other times when there's not. So, you know, I don't know if that answers your question well enough, but it's yes and no. You know, you look at other times, I think one of the hardest things to evaluate as a quarterback, what is the effect of what each play is having on you as the game goes on, right? So there's a cumulative effect that comes from being under duress or being hit. And unfortunately, it is going to manifest itself from time to time when you would prefer it doesn't.
Brian, with this being the bye week, what specifically
is going to happen in terms of taking that first step to trying to get back on track to meet your expectations with the offense? What are the first
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Well, I know this. You can't do anything without taking a step, right? And it doesn't matter how small it is. You know, I look at this and I say, okay, what can we do better right now? What can we fix right now? Right? Well, I can tell you this. We need to do a better job of eliminating negative plays, right? Whether they're sacks or lost yardage on rushing plays, got to eliminate negative plays. Right along with negative plays are penalties. And we've done a pretty good job through the first 4 weeks as far as penalties and being penalized. Not the case the last 2 weeks, right? We've racked up all kinds of penalties in the last 2 weeks, and all in fairly critical situations, whether it affected field position, whether it affected down and distance, right? A 1st and 25, difficult to overcome. If you're 3rd and goal on the 6 or 7, wherever we were on that first series, you have I think we were 3rd and goal on the 6, left hash, you got a legitimate chance to go to the end zone. And there's a lot of good plays from the 6. From the 11, not so much, right? It changes your thought process. It goes back to your question, Chad, about being on 3rd down on your own 4 versus your own 2, or your own 5 versus your own 2.5. So the penalties are right there with that. And then in my mind, it's just making the makeables, right? And I think that's different for every position. Going back to the one-on-one battles, Tom, on your question, the reality of football is it's a competitive endeavor. You're not going to win every one-on-one battle. That's just not the way it's going to work. But when you're giving up unforced errors, right, or you're in the wrong place and you cut somebody loose, that's a problem. That's a makeable as an offensive lineman or a running back or a tight end in protection or in the run game. Dropping balls, right, that's a makeable. All right, overthrows, underthrows, missing open guys, makeable. So when you look at the makeables, if you're not making those makeables, right, then you're going to have a hard time sustaining any success. So I look at that and say, all right, well, what can we do right now to address those things? It's not glamorous. My answer is we need to do better. We need to do better in practice. We need to have more focus. We need to have more attention to detail. We need to have more of a sense of urgency about making sure that those things that are going to set us back aren't happening on Saturdays.
Quarterback Joe Labus, knowing the spring and throughout fall camp, it was about trying to get him up to speed with the other 2 quarterbacks in the room. How would you assess his progress through 6 weeks, and has he made steps to close the gap on Spencer and Alex?
Yeah, Joe continues to do a good job, but the simple answer is no, he has not. He has not yet closed the gap on those 2 guys, but doesn't discourage you from continuing to work with him, right, and hope that you get there.
Kind of a news flash here. People, watching the Hawkeyes want more changes to be made. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. What change?
You're just asking in such a somber.
Well, yeah.
I don't mean to laugh.
I'm shouldering it.
Yeah, you got to let some of that off your shoulders.
Yeah, no,
just ask the question.
What tangible change could you point to coming out of a bye week that might be different about this offense going forward?
I think we'll have to wait and see. I don't know how exciting that is as an answer. That's not going to take any weight off your shoulders. But the question is fair, right? So let me try to give you a fair answer. Look, if the run game is not effective, right, if we are not being able to move the ball on early downs with the run game, can we find a way to do it with the passing game, right? Are there ways to manufacture yards on early downs, whether it's quick game, whether it's emptying the formation out, right? Whatever it is, can we create more space and then put the ball in space, right? Can we do that? Are we asking the proper things in the run game out of the right guys, right? Can we do a better job of having certain backs run certain plays, right? Are we asking the guys up front to do things that they cannot do? I don't know. We have to look at that right now. That's what we're in the process of doing. Can we find better ways to create some of that success on early downs? And then changes as far as 3rd down, I'd point back to the Illinois game. We came out with some different looks on 3rd down. We played a little bit more empty. We tried to open the field up a little bit more. Certainly tried to feature Sam a little bit more, which there's some danger in that too. You don't want to become too one-dimensional, which we got pretty darn close the other night. I think he had like 16 targets, so he may quit at some point here in protest, kind of running the wheels off of him. But yeah, are we going to put guys in a better position to be successful? Can we put the ball on the perimeter more? however that is going to be, right? Whether it's bubbles, jet motions, fly motions, things of that nature, So I don't have great answers right now. We're in the process of going through those things. But the reality is, yeah, we have to look at doing things differently and changing some things moving forward here. But, are we going to be 5 wide and in the Wildcat and things like that? I don't think that's the answer. And if it was, I can assure you that's what we'd be working on doing. But the reality is we're trying to win football games. We're invested in this. This is very important to us. What can we do to get better? That's a question in our minds at every moment of every day. And that's not unique to the bye week either, right? These are things that you're trying to adjust and change week to week during the season, in the midst of it.
Brian, Jacob Bostic and Deontay Vines got in uniform. I think Deontay came out of uniform before the game, but what could they add to the offense moving forward? Because it seems like they'll be back for Ohio State, I think. And what's the status of Keegan Johnson and his return?
Yeah, so I'll start with Jake Bostic. Obviously he's a young guy, but he's continued to show improvement. Has had to battle some injuries here. I'm not confident that he will play against Ohio State. So I don't want to get anybody excited about that prematurely. Still battling through some of those things. Deontay, I don't want to make that proclamation. I'll leave that to the head coach next week, but we are confident that we're going to get him back as we move forward here. Hopefully it's Ohio State. I thought we were close last week. But there's just, obviously, you're always going to defer to the medical staff. The player safety would be the #1 concern. But really excited about him because he's a guy that had flashed in camp. He's a guy that early before he had the injury, really thought he had done some nice things in the red zone. He's got some speed that is impressive on the outside for a bigger guy, right? He's not a real lengthy guy, but he's got some size to him. And he can run and use his body. Really, his ball skills impressed us since he's been here, but unfortunately he's battled a lot of injuries. So camp was really the first time that he was able to kind of push it forward and get going. Really excited about that. Hopefully we can incorporate him moving forward here and can just, give us, #1, some presence outside, and then maybe we can continue to build depth. And then with Keegan, still continuing to battle some of the injuries, some of the soft tissue stuff. But again, I would defer to the head coach just about his availability.
Brian, when you look at the Big Ten, things have changed quite a bit where you've seen 2 assistant coaches fired this week. You've seen 2 head coaches fired, including one that was quite a shocker, at least to me. Have you had any concern about your position and based on the success or lack thereof of the offense, and have you considered stepping down because of that lack of success?
Okay, so I'll start #1 with the last part of the question. In my opinion, doesn't make it right. There's 2 options in life in any situation, right? You can surrender, okay? And if you surrender, then I think the results are pretty much guaranteed. Or you can dig in, you can continue to fight, and you can try to improve and do things better. I will always choose option A. Done in my personal life, done in my professional life. I wouldn't be able to go home and look my children in the eye if I wasn't an option B person. I think I said option A. I started with option surrender, right? That's not me. All right. Let me be crystal clear about that, right? So that's #1. #2, to the other question, look, in this business, we all signed up for this, okay? This is a results-driven business. It has been since the minute I entered it. None of this is a new phenomenon. Things that go on outside of this program never surprise nor shock me, ever. Because this is the world we live in. This is the life we chose. You have to get results. Otherwise, they will move on to people who will. That's the way it is. You add on to it, right, my emotional ties to this place, right, I already referenced it, player or coach, 16 years here, was born in the hospital across the street, spent my entire childhood wanting to run out in that swarm and got to do it, and now got to coach here. And I love this place. There's a responsibility and a privilege that comes with being a coach here or being a player here. And I feel that deeply. There's another layer to it for me. My father's the head coach, right? I've been answering questions about nepotism my entire adult life. None of that's new to me either. I would flip it and say, if you think that I don't feel an added responsibility or added pressure to perform well for my father, you're crazy. course I feel that. I'm a human being. But at the end of the day, what you can't let happen is worrying about anything that's not going to help you do your job. And I learned that very early in my career. Keep your eyes on the road. Keep your eyes where they need to be. Keep your feet, okay, where you are, and worry about doing your job as well as you possibly can, regardless of circumstance, regardless of what's going on around you. Keep your focus there. Pour your effort into that, and whatever happens, happens. Do the best you can where you're at with what you got, okay, and you won't have any regrets. That's what I was taught at an early age. I continue to live by that. So I don't worry about what's going on other places. And quite frankly, I don't worry about what's going on for my job status or anything like that. My focus is on the staff, the players, and doing my duty to the best of my ability to help them be successful.
Along those lines, do you think that in terms of your job evaluation that's been influenced by the fact that the head coach is your father?
You would have to ask the head coach. I don't think anything. That would be a question for him. I don't want to speak for anyone else.
Back to quarterback. I wanted to ask about quarterback. What would be the downside of, I know we've talked about this, what's the downside of going with Alex? You still got Spencer on the team. What would be the downside of giving him a shot?
The downside of
going to making a change at quarterback.
What would be the upside?
Making a change.
Right, but
I'm just
asking. I'm not trying to be coy. What I'm saying is I think I addressed that, Scott, when you asked the question, what's the downside? I'm not interested in making a change for change's sake, right? So when I'm looking at it, I'm saying, what's the upside, right? I don't know. There's unknown there. I know what Spencer's done. I know what Spencer can do, right? And I know what he does every day. That's the evaluation piece that we were talking about, and that's what the decision is made on. So I do understand the question. I don't want you to think I'm being flippant, but does that answer it?
Yeah, I mean,
Sort of?
Yeah.
Kind of? Not satisfactory?
Well, I'm kind of thinking back to our last Zoom where we're talking about the mobility aspect.
Sure.
Like, it seems like a more mobile option with the line troubles you're having would be a benefit to me, but maybe you can tell me.
Yes, okay. I understand that question. Let me explain it this way. The passing game is a system, right? And the system is built on timing and location in the zone coverage world, or if we're dealing with man-to-man coverage, matchup leverage throws, right? So, for example, in the game Saturday night, we didn't see a lot of zone coverage, right? There's not probably a lot of great examples of that. There's two. I'll give you a couple. In the 2-minute drives, right, we started with quick game through a hitch route out to Nico at number 2, right? So we throw the hitch route out there, ball is on time, it's right decisions, everything we talked about. The guy that could take it away was pretty darn close. Okay, it was pretty darn close. So we come back to that play and throw it to the sit route twice later, right? So now you're beating that defender, you're playing the game, timing and location. That's one way to play. The other way to play is matchup leverage. Plenty of those throws in the game, right? There's a couple where it's uncontested. There's just a guy running wide open because the man cover guy falls down, right, or whatever it is. But you even think about the second play of that 2-minute drive at the end of the first half. We throw a circus route to Sam into the boundary. It's man-to-man. It's tight coverage. The defender's low and inside. The ball's high and away, right? That would be matchup leverage, throwing where the defender is not, where only our guy can make a play on the ball. But in either case, it's still built on timing, right? So the mobility aspect, certainly understand the question. But the reality is the majority of the passing game, it needs to happen on a timeline. And the minute that timeline is compromised, right, now all bets are off. Now it's backyard football. And there's nothing wrong with that from time to time. A good example of that would be the scramble where Spencer got hit, right, on the 3rd and 2 or whatever it was, right? You're off your clock, you got to go. It's also a good picture of improvement. We had the same situation against Rutgers, similar play, not the exact same play. Similar play, it's not there, you're off your clock. He ended up eating it like on the 7-yard line, end of the first half when we got down there. Right? So you're looking at those things, you're saying that's improvement, that's what you like, that's what you're looking for. But if that answers your question, I don't know that the mobility, just having a guy running around, I'm not sure that's going to solve any of our issues. You're not going to be any more open just because the guy's running around.
Finite amount of time here in the bye week and in the rest of the season to make improvements. How much of an improvement do you think is feasible for this offense?
We need to make any improvement. I'm not worried about how much is feasible. I'm worried about how much can we make, And we need to be striving to make as much as we possibly can. Going back to the first 3 points of the press conference, right? Okay, possess, advance, and score the football. How do we do those things better? How can we get them better, right? Any improvement is better than no improvement, but then let's start building on that and let's see how much we can make. So what I don't want to do is say, finite amount, how much, I don't know. How much can we make? That's how much we need to make. Whatever we're capable of making in a short amount of time, let's work on that and then understand that's going to have to continue week to week.
How much?
It looked like your running backs, LaShawn Williams and Caleb Johnson, have made a lot of progress, in particular those two. How much do you think you can lean on them, and how much in concert can they grow with the offensive line to maybe give you a good punch?
Hopefully a lot. Really felt like Caleb took a step forward in that Nevada game. That was kind of his game to figure out, like, hey, I can do this. And he did some good things there, and then he continued to build on those. And especially the next week at Rutgers, I thought both those guys ran the ball extremely well, especially between the tackles. How much more progress can they make? Well, I mean, shoot, I think everybody can make more progress. Right now, LaShawn is probably a little bit more consistent than Caleb because he's played more and he's been in the program longer. So you can trust him to do just about everything we do at a higher level than Caleb because this is all still pretty new to him. So I expect him to continue to close that gap. But I also expect LaShawn to improve. And you can never have too many good football players. So the better those guys are running the ball, the better we're going to play. There's no question. John, going back to you.
Yeah, schematically, how much can you change here in the bye week without overloading guys with information?
Yeah, you don't. I don't want to say this in a way that. How do I say this properly? The scheme, you have a vast amount of scheme, right? Like it's not that you're just going to overhaul the scheme. It's what are you working to feature, right? So the playbook is expansive. Everyone's is, right? There's only so many ways to play offensive football. How much can you change? You're really not changing anything. How much can you focus on different things? Plenty. You can do that. But at the end of the day, right, you know, a lot of our issues when we're talking about making makeables, we just need to do that. Let's start there.
So you mean by that more of execution is the problem more so than schematic?
I think we need to execute it a lot better, yes. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, guys.
I have LeVar here in a minute.
Getting calls down there.
Right. I figured you're in a meeting or something.
It's one team gets it on.
All right, so we'll continue with LeVar Woods.
How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
That's it?
Great.
They're great. Okay, good. Great morning. Great morning. Good. So you're catching on. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for being here. It's a beautiful fall day out today. We had practice this morning. Noticed all the leaves changing colors, the reds, the yellows, right? The fall's coming here. You guys could easily be out at Wilson's Apple Orchard picking apples, or out at Kroll Farms getting pumpkins with your kids. If you have that, that's what I'd be doing if I were not, if my kids weren't in school and I weren't here. But, kind of just appreciate you guys being here and your interest level always in Iowa special teams. Kind of where we're at right now as far as special teams go. Happy, with kind of how the units have been playing. Definitely not satisfied. There's a lot more out there for us. There's some things, we've had some really good moments so far this year, and then some moments some near misses where we felt like, we really could have impacted the game but didn't do it. We always talk about here being championship level, talking about championship level practice, championship level play in games. And again, we've seen that so far this year at times, and there's times where, again, near misses where coulda, shoulda, woulda. So the goal right now is trying to eliminate the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and then more, being happy and satisfied with results. And happy with how the guys are playing. In general, starting off with the punt game, I think Torrey is punting the ball well. For the most part, there's some things consistency-wise I know that he's not happy with. I'm sure he's told you guys that if he hasn't already. I'm sure he will. But as far as coverage goes, I've been happy with the coverage. I think you guys have seen this in games already. You've seen Cooper flying down the field making tackles. You've seen Terry down the field making tackles. You've seen Jack Campbell, down there making tackles. And Xavier Wankpa's a freshman who's happened to join the unit, which is hard to do as a true freshman to play here in our punt unit. But he's doing it and doing it well. And along with the rest of the guys as well. And I think it really speaks to the culture that we have here. And the way that this team operates, it speaks to the character of the guys. It's very rare you have an all-American linebacker like Jack Campbell flying down the field, making tackles, and not just doing it willingly, but wanting to do it. You guys saw that in the game last week. He first guy down the field, ball pops up, bang, he's the guy that recovers it. Again, I think it speaks volumes to his character and what he wants to do on this football team. And that's set by Coach Ferentz, the culture and what we try to do around here. Within this building, within this team, and just happy with that. And again, some things we still need to clean up. Ultimately, you talk about Torrey, and I think he'll be the first to tell you he's getting some really good snaps. Some things that are kind of like hidden that people don't really notice. Getting really good snaps from Luke Elkin. Something that maybe I think as a younger coach I took for granted, the snapper position and how critical that is, and how much it can help a punter. And I think I've called Luke the ultimate setup man. Like, he's the ultimate setup man, good snaps, puts the ball where you want it, and then also he's getting down. You guys seen that as well this year, getting down the field, tackling guys and making tackles, which is pretty rare for a snapper in college football or in pro football. As far as that goes, field goal units, I think Drew's coming along as a player. He's definitely young. He's had some, every game is really like a new experience for him in some way, because he was a high school kid a year ago, really less than a year ago. But I think he's made a huge transition since spring, and we've all kind of seen that now. He missed a kick, his last kick against Illinois, which I know is just eating him away. But to me, that shows the guy's a competitor. He may be young, he may be inexperienced, but he's a competitor, and he has that drive inside. And again, helped again by a new holder with Torrey, the first-year holder. Torrey's done a great job with that. Protection's been good. And then I go back to the ultimate setup man with Luke. And again, stuff that you don't really see. And a lot of times, if you really pay attention, you watch NFL snappers and where the laces are coming and how easy the operation is. That's what we're trying to get to. If you ever watch that on Sundays, I don't pretend that you guys pay attention to that stuff. But as a special teams coach, I definitely do, and we do. And I think we're getting some of that right now from that position. But as far as those two units, kickoff's been good so far. I've been happy with that. Some guys flying down, Jay Higgins playing a lot on defense, but also getting down there, making some tackles, making some big hits. It's been good for our football team. The return game is a position, both kickoff and punt return, both of them we're still working to improve. I think we've seen, in kick return, we've seen Caleb Johnson, like flashes of him as a potential exceptional returner. But they're still saying, he's still a freshman, some things we're still cleaning up. The things that we're working on, and we worked on this week during the bye week: communication, better understanding, alignments, finish, some of the little things that can either make or break a big return in either punt return or kick return. So those have kind of been the focal points for us so far this year, and then also during the bye week. Again, happy with where we're at, definitely not satisfied, and I think we can help our football team better. With that, any questions you guys may have?
I was interested in your kick return unit. You have Louis Steck kind of back as like the third to the back. I don't know how you call that, what position you call that. It's kind of unusual to see a defensive tackle back that far. What does he bring in your kick return unit that puts him in that position, and how comfortable would you be if the ball came to him?
Yeah, so I'm glad you noticed that Louis back there, because again, it's another position on our team that kind of goes unheralded, but he packs a big punch and really helps our unit. So another guy that played there was a defensive lineman. Oh my gosh, his name's escaping me right now. Oh my gosh, I loved him. 53 from Pella. Oh my gosh. Yes, thank you so much, Garrett Jansen. But very similar, right? Very mobile, can move, can strike guys on the run. Hard to do. So typically it's fullbacks that play that position, a defensive lineman that plays that position. You see it a lot more in the NFL than you do in college football, just based off the roster sizes. But I think Louis has done a good job with that position. If you saw the first kick return against Illinois, it was literally right in front of me, and it sounded like a car crash. And that's not something that's easy to do. It makes you realize why people are talking about eliminating kickoff from football, because it was a collision, it was a hit, and he knocked that guy silly. But that's what Louis brings to the table. He's a lower guy to the ground, bigger guy that can pack a punch and move people out of the way. So yeah, but he's also had in practice, not in games, where he's had the ball in his hands and can move with it. So. Yeah, but he does a good job. And not only that, if you pay attention, you really watch us and study us, he plays in our shield and punt as well. Again, an unheralded position that really nobody wants, because they're sending some guys straight through him, right through his face. And Louis is a stout, powerful, tough guy that handles that dirty work. Again, part of special teams, I feel like there's some positions that the job is the job. It's sort of like playing fullback on offense, right? Like, okay, my shoulder's sore, my neck's sore. Someone still needs to go up there and slam in there into the linebacker, and I think that's the position that Louis played really well for us.
When you look at a lot of special teams metrics, you've consistently been in the top 20 despite losing Charlie Jones, despite losing Caleb Shudak. What's the key to having that consistency?
I think it goes back to the culture that Coach Ferentz sets within this building, and not only that with what Coach Ferentz sets, but then what our guys are trying to do. And again, I go back to the character of the men on this team, and the guy I keep bringing up those same guys, right? With Campbell, with Benson, Roberts and DeJean, those guys are playing every snap on defense, yet they're still the first guys to the sideline to run down on punt coverage. That doesn't happen on a lot of teams. I can tell you, as a player, when I was a player, I wasn't signing up, running to the coach, say, hey, put me in on punt. I was, okay, fine, I guess I'll do it. But these guys are different. These guys are high character people, high character individuals that want to help their football team and want to make plays. And again, we're reaping the benefits of that right now. But again, all that is set from Coach Ferentz at the top, the culture within the walls of this program.
I have a question about a specific return last week, the last one after their Illinois' last field goal. I think it was Gavin who caught it and then just kind of took a knee really quick. Was that designed to try to get the offense the ball really early, or even though he's a deep back, or was he just do that on?
Yeah, so don't like the ball hitting the ground, right? Of course, we don't ever want that in kick return, but we are trying to conserve time as well, right? So again, the thought is to not let it hit the ground. We want to catch the thing, get down as fast as we can, as much as we can, as fast as we can to let the offense go, because the timing is thrown off, right? So you've heard me talk about kick return in the past about like a symphony, right? The timing of all the strings and the chords and each instrument that's played at what time it's played. Timing gets thrown off when the ball's on the ground or the kick is short. So in that regard, right, we want to get as much as we can, get down, let the offense have the ball with as much time as possible. I can't remember if there's one timeout or no timeouts left within the game, but that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to go get 8 more yards in 1 second? Or?
Sure. I mean, you're taking 4 or 5 seconds off the clock. Potentially, yeah.
First down.
8 yards is not a first down.
Well, I know what I mean.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but I don't know
22 to
there's
the
8
30.
yards out there either, based off what we're trying to do return-wise. I can tell you I wasn't disappointed by the decision. I was disappointed the ball hit the ground.
Yeah.
Because you don't ever want that ball.
Would you rather have him fair catch that than in that case?
Yeah, if you can. It's sometimes a tough kick if you're running up. So here's the other thing that's kind of unknown in college football. So you have the fair catch rule, right? So a guy can signal fair catch, but if it's not a clean catch, the ball hits the ground, you don't get the ball at the 25. You get the ball wherever it's down. That's part of, knock on wood, why I don't like returners doing this in the background, because if it's not a clean catch, we've benefited from that a couple of times. I think it was Northwestern last year, and I want to say either Nebraska in 18, Purdue in 2019, I want to say. They tried a fair catch, and then boom, balls on the ground, we get it at the 4. You don't want that at all. So again, strategically, the play is you don't want the ball to hit the ground for sure, but how many yards are out there, the journey's over at that point. We just want to get the ball and give it back.
Do you still consider it an open competition at kicker between Drew and Aaron, or are you more set on Drew for now?
I think Drew's done a really good job with the opportunities he's had so far. I know that Aaron's working his butt off, and same thing with Lucas Amaya is working as well. But I think Drew's done a pretty good job with that role. I'll never say never or anything like that. And as long as the opportunities keep coming and he keeps taking advantage of them, I see that going for him. But Aaron's right there as well, and he's been busting his butt and working hard too. So, Coach said this in a press conference, I don't think we've seen the last Aaron Blom. I would agree with him. I'd agree with him on that. Whether it's in place kicks or whether it's kickoffs, somewhere in there, we're still working with that.
What goes into the calculus of, you've seen Drew can obviously kick touchbacks consistently, sure, between whether you want him to go for the touchback or whether you want him to try to drop it in kind of inside the 5, inside the 10?
Yeah, so hang time is taken into account, like how, we're striving for 4-second hang time, right? So 4-0 hang is what we say. So anything beyond that is a bonus. Drew's done a pretty good job with that. He's not totally at 4-0 hang time on his kickoffs, but he's pretty close. And again, I go back to the timing of kick return, right? So the timing gets thrown off when the ball's hanging way up in the air, like Michigan did to us. Kicked the ball, I think it was 4-2-8 hang, and we tried to return it, and we found out real quick it's hard to do. And then conversely, that's why you see at the end of games or end of half when a team kicks the ball on the ground, right? Because the timing gets thrown off. It's hard. You may get 5 yards or even 8, potentially. Okay, maybe if you're lucky. But very rarely do you see it take off and go the distance. So that's timing just gets thrown off by high hang and then balls on the ground.
How happy are you at punt return right now?
Punt return, I feel like we can be better in all regards. And again, that was the focal point today's practice and today's meeting was it comes down to the little things, the details, right? With how we're, so it's one thing, hey, I have my man, I'm running with him. Well, if you're the returner back there who's like this, right? His eyes are up and he catches the ball and all of a sudden he looks forward, all of you guys look the same. You could be media members, you could be football players, it's all the same to me. I don't know who's on my team, who's not. Okay, but when there's a seam, when there's a separation created, right, when I'm running with my man and I actually move him out of the way while I'm running with him, that opens a seam for the returners. And that's what that's what we focused on today, is just trying to give the returner better vision, more opportunities that way. So as far as, I don't know how many, we've faced some pretty good punters so far. We've also faced a couple that eliminate returns based off not great punts. So I think the things we need to improve upon are keeping the ball off the ground, right, fielding the ball. Same thing in punt return and kick return, so to eliminate some of that bleeding yardage, but then also in finishing some of our blocks. I feel like the guys that have been working there with AB and then also with Cooper, I think we've got two pretty good candidates there with Witt coming along as well, and some freshmen that are they're not prime time ready yet, but they're working well in practice, and anxious to see them kind of as we continue to move forward.
You look at the the Jay Higgins, the Kyler Fishers, the ones who have excelled on special teams, and now they're getting a role on defense. Who are kind of like those guys that are stepping into those roles? I know you mentioned Xavier earlier, but who are some other guys across the special teams unit that are impressing you and might be able to parlay that into play at their own position?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because those are two guys with both Jay and Kyler who have done exceptionally well on special teams. And they're sort of the bell cows for us, if you will, as core players on special teams. And you're seeing it translate into roles for them on defense as well. You mentioned one already with Xavier. I definitely see Xavier with that. Terry has sort of done that as well, right, playing as a gunner and then transitioning into a corner. Cooper's done that. He did that last year. Played mainly for us on special teams, and it just gave everyone confidence, like, hey, put him in the game on defense, and then he hasn't come out since. So those are kind of the guys right now. As far as younger players, I could see right now in that role, there's a guy that I've kind of got my eyes on and fixated on. It's not just myself, but the people I work with, Brock Sherman and Arash Asadi. Devin Hilson has done a really good job on the scout team and done a really good. He's making it really hard for us is in kick return and in the looks he's given us, flying down the field and getting in on tackles. So we've transitioned him. Okay, you're not doing this on the scout team anymore. You're doing it for us in the kickoff unit, and he played us one snap in punt coverage last week as well. So that's a guy I could see transition in his role becoming a little bit bigger, not only on special teams but on offense as well. I don't want to speak for Coach Betts or anyone on offense, but I could see that. Some of the other guys, I mentioned previously. I think Louis has done some of that as well with Coach Bell. Some of the toughness he brings to us on our football team. I'm glad you pointed him out because, again, both those positions he plays are not very glamorous positions, but they're dirty work positions that need to get done, and he's been getting the job done fairly well. That's it.
All right.
Nothing? Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming this afternoon. I'm sure that, this bye week, you guys have a lot of time to get your honeydews done. I know I've had to go out and cut the grass a little bit and edge it, so I know I got some of my stuff done. That's a beautiful time by yourself. But anyways, I just wanted to welcome you guys and just talk to you a little bit of what we're doing in this bye week. We're trying to evaluate a little bit of our self-scout and the things that we're looking at. And obviously some of the things that we're looking at is, the biggest thing I look at is a lot of the explosive plays. How many are we giving up? And I think it's a total of 5. And I think big plays that were given up is, we gave up 18 as a total, and that's a 20-yard pass or a 15-yard run. Then obviously I think there's 24 chunk plays, which I call in between 10 and 14. So you try to evaluate that and see, is it the defense? Is it a guy? Are we in the right defense? Or are we losing this basic, some of it's this basic leverage, football leverage that I always talk about that is so simple. The other things that, we always look at is, our efficiency. Our efficiency is, we're talking about every down and distance. You go 1st and 10, are you 2nd and 7? If you're 2nd and 8, we have to be successful at 3rd and 4. And I think, over the time we've been pretty good. I think the last couple of games we didn't hit our numbers that we expect to hit. So I think that's something we're definitely got to work on and see what we can do to improve that. Another area that I think we're in the red zone. We're doing a pretty decent job in the red zone as far as points per entering into the red zone. I think we can do better a little bit. I think there's some opportunities out there. And one other thing is, I look at 3rd downs. We're 67% overall on 3rd downs, but then if you add the 4th down into it, we gave up too many 4th downs. It might be 1, it might be 2, and it kind of drops you down a little bit. It's just an opportunity to get off the field, and we didn't do it. Takeaways are down compared to what we're used to. We had some opportunities, and we didn't take care of those things, and we're working just like everybody else. Very happy, pleased the way the guys are working, and obviously this is a week that we can get some of our starters a little bit of a rest and work some of the younger guys. And, by talking about some younger guys really that are really impressive, that have stepped up, that maybe not be in a starting position. You look at a guy like Higgins or Craig or Graves as a young guy that's getting a lot of reps at a young time. And then another thing, we got Terry Roberts, that was in there, and then he's back out, so we ended up putting Castro that's really kind of filled in and did a really nice job for us there in a couple games in there when he was playing the cash position, and then we flipped Cooper back outside to a corner. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's a little bit of preparation for, after we did our South Scout, it was really looking forward to seeing, the next opponent and working on those guys, and then obviously, this thing that comes up in every year is recruiting in the bye week. Very disinterested sometimes, it's like an interruption thing, but it's things you have to do to make sure you go out on the road and recruiting, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to be out in schools and watching some games. I'm sure you guys are real happy that you guys don't have to go to games or don't have to do anything this weekend, right? Kind of honeydews. But I'll open up to any questions you guys have.
I had a question about Cooper, and it's, cash is still a relatively new position as far as being a prominent position in your defense. Most of those guys, Monty and Dane were safeties, and he played in the safety. He's transitioning from corner to play in this hybrid position. How challenging is that for him and for that position? And then also, what kind of progress has he made as a true sophomore, basically, doing what he's doing?
Well, go back to the first thing is, we had him at corner, and I think what you really mean was he was just ended up in the corner at the Kentucky game, right? He can play multiple. When we first recruited him, we recruited him at, as a defensive back and didn't know exactly where he would actually fit in. He has the capability of playing actually corner, cash. I think strong safety, he can play free safety. I think he can play multiple positions back there. And for a guy to be a sophomore and do the things that he can do and understand what he needs to do, I think is really good. It's really an elite and my thing, just looking at him and saying, how can he do all this stuff? He has great balance. He's got great football awareness. He sees things, and he's always on his feet, and has always, what I say, play with good leverage. I'm really pleased the way he goes. He has great ball skills. Some catches that he makes during practice, that are what I call freakish. You know what I mean? Like one-handers behind and all this stuff, and you say, I'm sure he can play multiple positions, but he's definitely mature enough, hard worker, always in the film room or always working. I used to see him in the summertime all the time, just going out to the indoor, trying to work on his footwork and stuff like that. He does a good job. A lot of those guys do.
Was there a single point where you realized, Cooper, this guy's special?
You know, I guess when you go out there and you're with these guys every day, you know, you kind of get used to what you're seeing, and my expectations of him become higher every time he goes out there. And obviously, you know, he started real fast and started going good, and I think he's still improving. I think he's got a little bit more, you know, to give even, and that's the way you look at it. And if you look at it, everybody wants to be perfect. Even if he makes a play, you want to be perfect, right? And nobody's perfect. And, you know, everybody says you can't be perfect. But you can try to be perfect. If you get to try to be perfect, you can be excellent, right? Instead of, you know, just going around and being average.
Phil, a couple of the players last week talked about doing a better job winning first down against the run. How much of a concern is that for you, you know, moving forward? Yeah,
anytime. That's, you know, I think you start talking about looking at how you're going to stop the run and, you know, make it a manageable third down, and that's been an issue for us. And I think, you know, we've done as best we can right now is getting down, and are we doing the right things, and do we have the guys in the right spot? Are they putting us in different formations and getting different guys in the box and trying to do that? And we're trying to solve those problems and making sure that we're not putting guys in position that they can't make a play. Now, I think you can look at every play, and there's mistakes sometimes all over that nobody really sees. And I just think we need to improve our fundamentals. And the more you improve your fundamentals and they become a natural thing, then I think that's when everything comes together and you have a better chance of stopping them on first down.
Look at all 3 games of Big Ten play. I think you've allowed points on the opening drive, and all of them have been long drives. Michigan, I think, took a lot of time off the clock. Illinois, 17 plays maybe. Is that an issue for you, do you feel like, or why do you feel like that's happening?
Well, I think you got to really go back and look at it and evaluate, you know, when you could have got off on third down. You know, why we could have got off in the Illinois game in a third down, and we're going to get off the field, and we got a penalty. You know, so some of the things over there, sometimes the guy makes a good catch. Sometimes the guy not playing a very good technique. Sometimes it's a shitty call. You know what I mean? But those things you just got to keep on working at. And you know, them guys that we're playing against, I think, are on scholarship too. You know, they're trying to win too. So it's very competitive, and you know, and the sense of urgency of making sure that you're exact and you got to be perfect.
Is there anything like you're doing differently on the first drive of the game, as far as like?
No, I don't think so. I always think it's important to stop the first third down. There's no question about that. It's how, you know, how you see the game going. It usually depends on, you know, how you react into the first down and how well do you guys know the team that you're playing. And I think that's an issue if you don't stop the third down. I think sometimes kids, you know, say, "Oh God, no, here we go again." You know what I mean? And I think you got to do a better job. I got to do a better job of getting them in the right positions to make those plays and to help those guys out. But you know, usually a first third down in a series, you know, I think is very important.
What have you seen from Jay Higgins this year?
I just liked his motor, the way he goes. I mean, very flexible. He's aggressive, and he's very serious, and he's mature, and I think he just loves the game of football. And you like that energy. He brings a lot of energy to the defensive unit over there, and it's fun to have him around. You like him to be on the field, and he's been in some spots where he had to come in there and help us out, and I think I can see more of that here in the future.
Coach Ferentz has talked a few times about concerns about depth at cornerback with a lot of different injuries. How would you assess how guys like T.J. Hall, bringing the extra minutes when he's been healthy, Jamison Hines and others have developed behind Riley Cooper in this area?
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, you look at some of the Hines and T.J. Hall, they've been working, and this is a good week that we had the last 2 days of practice. They got a lot of reps here to show that they're improving and stepping forward what they have to do. Are they exactly where I want them to be? No. I mean, that's why they're twos, right? And so hopefully we can push them and keep on pushing them. We got another 6 weeks to go with these guys over here after the bye week, and they need to improve just like, you know, the first teamers need to improve, just like we do as coaches need to improve. You know, if you're not evaluating everything, and the kids got to take it to, hey, they look at it, am I doing the best I can, and can I do better? And just like any game that you go into, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. You're always looking at the plays. Don't worry about the plays that you made, and they were good, really good plays. Look at the plays you didn't make or have an opportunity to make. And then go back and look at the plays you did make. Could you, you made a tackle. Could it have been better? Could you have been in better position? Could you have tackled them faster, quicker, if you would have went through your progression faster? So you always evaluate. That's what you do as a coach. It's a never-ending battle. Okay, so you know that you critique. We critique ourselves as coaches. We critique our players every day. It's a business. That's what it is. And if you don't, and you stop doing that, and if a kid doesn't want to be coached or doesn't want to be critiqued on his technique, fundamentals, and stuff like that, then then eventually, I think guys don't coach him anymore. He's not listening. So I think all of our guys are coachable, and they want to be coached, and every kid is trying their heart out every day to go out to practice, in the film room, whatever they do, whether it's in the weight room or, taking care of their bodies,
What kind of a lift can Y.A. Black bring you now that it seems like he's on track and playing at the end of this month?
Yeah, I think it's obviously you had a big asset in there that got hurt early, and there's a little bit of effect on us, a little bit of a guy getting enough reps and making sure that we don't wear out the D-line, and I think obviously he's going to add something to us. He's I don't know how much he weighs now, but he's a good-looking dude that can help us out, and I think the first couple days of coming back, I don't think he was just going each drill one-on-one, whether it was blocks drill, was he get better? And then we got the team, he's getting better. So, we still got another week and a half. I think he's, be ready to roll. Hopefully he does have a chance to get in there and help us.
You mentioned Deontay Craig earlier. What have you seen from his development, and also Ethan Hurkett getting some opportunities?
I've seen both of those guys that really work hard. They go hard every day in practice, and the one thing about it, I see the maturity a little bit with Craig as far as the way he's going about his business and the way he's moving on the field, and he gives us another opportunity to put another guy in the field that has a chance to make some plays. And Hurkett's the same thing. I just like his demeanor all the time. He's a hard worker, goes hard, But everything, we're always trying to make these guys improve. So, wherever they're at now, I want them to be better by tomorrow. So that's the way we think.
What have been your impressions of Wampa through the first 6 weeks, and how do you think he can fit into this defense in the second half of the season?
Every day he picks something up, every day. And it was, today I thought he actually practiced, at a higher level. And do I think he has a lot more upside? Yes. Is he getting there? Yes. He has to grow up faster, which is hard. But I'm very happy and pleased the way he goes about his business. And he's done a good job, and he knows he can improve too, so that's a good thing. And the good thing is when you're sitting there watching them practice, you start seeing things now that show up and say, eventually, I don't know when, but it's going to happen.
I don't know how much you know about Ohio State, their offense.
I'm from Ohio.
Okay, yeah. Looks like a really dynamic offense. I mean, we won't get to talk to you before the game, obviously. So how is this different from any challenge that you will have seen maybe in a long time?
I think, Ohio State's had great players since I was a little kid. They got a lot of NFL players on the team. And we're just going to have to, they're going to motion and shift and trade, and they got athletes that they can get the ball to, and, a dynamic quarterback that can get the ball to them. They got good running backs. They got a good offensive line. And when you start seeing all that, you really got to play well. They're a well-coached team, and they're I don't know what they're averaging, something maybe around 50 points a game or something like that. I don't know where they are as far as the Big Ten thing is. I couldn't tell you that right now, but I think they're a really good football team as what we see on the film. And, you got to practice well, and you got to play well, and you got to be in the right spots. You got to have eye discipline, just like any other game. You got to play with great leverage. I think, leverage is a word that we throw around, but leverage goes from everything about your base alignment, and if 3 or 4 guys go over this way, well, you better, that's the enemy. Well, let's move our troops over there. All right, if they go the other way, you switch it over. You got to know how to line up and make sure you're leveraging the formations, and you got to leverage the ball when you're going to tackle it, and you got to play with leverage when you're defeating blocks. That's what you do, right? Same thing with defensive backs. You're getting blocked, you got to get off blocks. You know, it's the same thing as a back end, it's the same thing as the linebackers, it's the same thing as the defensive line. You got to separate and get off blocks. Or you can't make the tackle. If you're tied up with somebody that's blocking you, it's hard to tackle, I think. But you got to be around the ball to make a tackle. That's one. You got to be around the ball to intercept the ball, and you got to be able to recover it, a fumble. If you're not around the ball, then you can't recover a fumble. You know, so we're preaching the guys run the ball, and I think our guys are really working hard, and they look at it as, hey, they're all in, and it's really a great atmosphere the way it goes. I mean, the way we're practicing today was good. I thought it was really good.
You look at Quinn Schulte and his impact. He made some pretty big hits just right away and seems to be in pretty good position throughout the season thus far. In what ways is he similar to some of his predecessors like Jack or Jake Gervais and some of the others who were walk-on?
Brett Greenwood.
Huh? Brett Greenwood, yeah.
Yeah, he was just here yesterday.
With Pat, yeah.
Yeah, so...
How is he like those guys, and then how is he different, and what kind of
very similar to I'd say Brett. I categorize him in that thing. Very quiet, doesn't say very much, just goes to work, understands what you ask him to do, and he works for perfection. That's what he's trying to do. Is he the biggest guy? No. Either was the other guys, right? But what he does and his preparation and the way he goes about his business, he's doing it the best he can, and he's really done a really good job. That was another guy that I probably forgot to mention, that was a guy that's just, you're starting safety for the last 6 games, and he's really done a good job for us.
How much is losing Justin Jacobs kind of impacted what you want to do with your defense just because of what he was able to do in spaces?
Well, it's hard when you lose a good player, and, it's hard for him, going through that, and for us to be able to do it. And the good thing, the way we approached it, we had a lot of guys playing a lot of different positions, and we'd move the guys around, and, Campbell used to play outside. You got Benson that played outside. You got Higgins that could go out and play outside. So I think with doing that, that really helped us in the long run right now, not knowing that we're going to, have them out for the rest of the year. But that was a benefit that Coach Wallace thought it was important for him to keep on moving those guys around to make sure they got experience to go out. It's hard to go ahead and say, okay, hey, you go up there and get in there. Now you're playing this position when you were playing a Will back or you're playing the Mike back or so. I thought that was very beneficial for us to do that, and a lot of times in preseason.
Do you ever feel like when your offensive unit is struggling that you need to take up more of the slack, or do you ever say that to your players, or do they just internally feel that when they notice that they need to make a play to win the game as opposed to just playing their position?
Well, it's, my thought about the way we coach on defense is we're looking for perfection on every play. So I don't care what the score is, and I could go off and we could win a game or lose a game. Everything is going to go on to what's happened to that play and how did you do, and I'm going to evaluate you on that play. Are you giving me enough effort? Are you giving me hustle? Are you in the right positions? Are you making the right communications? Are you making mental mistakes? Critical errors, I'd say, leaving a guy open when you got a man-to-man. Those are the things that we coach on. That's all that we can control what our guys are doing. That's our job, and they all know it. Our job is to go out there and play the best that we can play to our ability, and I think they've done that. And I see no guys ever sitting there questioning anything that's going on. About all they do is worry about, hey, you get off the field, you get to the bench, let's make sure we cover our stuff that we need to cover, and let's get it corrected as fast as we can, and make sure that we're giving them enough information, to help those guys on the field. That's the way we look at it.
You've allowed 10 points or less in 5 games. What's your kind of evaluation of your defense right now, and how much better can you get, especially playing some pretty explosive offenses in the second half?
Well, I'm always looking to make sure that they're playing better than the week before. And, you know, we gave up, you start looking at how many points you give up and this many, and that really doesn't matter after a while is, you know, hey, did you win or did you lose? I mean, that what it comes down to a little bit, that everybody in the outside world is. But to me, it's the way they go about the game. How good this team can be, you know, don't know. But I think they still have room to improve to even be better than where we're at right now. You know, I think we gave up some cheap explosive plays that might have led into a touchdown or something like that. Obviously, you know, you go all the way back to the Michigan game, you know, there's some things out there that we left on the table that I thought we could have done a better job. And I'm still going to preach to these guys that, hey, we need to play well, and our standard keeps on going up every time you become a better football player or a better game. I want you to play your best game always on the next time. You know.
Logan Lee and Terry Roberts went out with injuries last time. You think they'll be back by Ohio State?
I think so. I mean, you know, it's a football game. You know, you get halfway through the year. Some of these guys, you know, you look at Terry. You know, possibility being his last year. I mean, I'm sure that he wants to come back, and the faster you get back, and you only have 6 more guaranteed. So, you know, I think the guys do what they have to do to get back. So, I don't know exactly what's going on with both of them, but I'm sure that, you know, there's nothing major.
What do you see as the next step for Jack Campbell?
Next step, I think later today, at 5:05, I think we have a position meeting, and I think he's going to be in there. I think that's what you're asking, what he's going to do next, or he might be in class.
Next step in his development.
Oh, next step in the development. Okay. You know, Jack is, I think what he is, you know, he's a unique guy. He's a full goal motor guy all the time. I don't know, you know, we played him a little bit as a money backer last week. You know, the kid can do a lot of different things, and, you know, let him keep on going out and keep leading. You know, how far can he go? I don't know. You know, I don't have that vision over there. If I did, I probably wouldn't be sitting there as a coach. You know what I mean? But I think, you know, he's doing all the right things that he has to do. You know, and I'm really happy and pleased the way the leadership is, and you know, with him and Benson, and really, I think we got good leadership all the way across the board, from top to bottom, everywhere in this building. So.
Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you guys.
Enjoy cutting the grass.
I will. And my dog is a pain in the ass. Especially at 4 o'clock. Then I got Reese texting me at 4:15. What time we right now?
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
See you next week.
Thanks a lot.